With LSU being off, the Saints not playing until Wednesday, it's a weird week for us. What are we going to do with ourselves this weekend? Maybe reacquaint ourselves with our families. No. Going to go to our kids' schools fair. We're going to spend early Sunday afternoon at brunch with mother-in-law. Oh, God. Please, God, no. Or maybe we'll just sleep our way to Monday. Hey, that last one sounds pretty good. I don't think I've slept since late August, but what about Taysom Hill, Demario Davis, Willie Gay, Cesar Ruiz? Well, there goes my sleep. Yep, you might as well stick around for the week's best bets from Gabe Henderson, Tom Casale, Uncle Big Nick, and myself. Nope, we don't sleep here until January at the earliest, so let's kickstart the Dattitude podcast. You know what? Good thing. It's coming up next.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, New Orleans? And hello to my friends elsewhere, everywhere out there who have tried to trick themselves and ignore all week. The Saints are not on a 2-game losing streak, and that Kansas City is not next on the docket. Anytime someone says anything about the Chiefs, you go, la, 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 la. No, we're not playing the Chiefs. We're playing the Jaguars. No. Panthers. What? We have a reason for you to get your fingers out of your ears. Trust me. You're going to be positive. It's going to be a positive show. You're going to enjoy this show. It's Dattitude. It's episode number 289, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Thursday, October the 3rd, 2024. I am your host, Jim Derry. Whether you're watching on one of our social media channels or listening on demand to the podcast after the fact, doesn't matter. You're still a part of the Dattitude family. You don't have to type in comments to be a part of the Dattitude family. We would love to hear from you. We don't want you to be that, that mute in the corner that just sits there and like, what's that guy? Who is that guy over there? Who is that lady over in that corner? No, we want you to talk. We want you to come on live, but you don't have to. You can still be a part of the Dattitude family. You know what today is? Today is part Saints, part best bets. I know some of the regulars don't come on Thursdays because they think all we do is give our bets. Oh, like this team. All right, see you later. Adios. That's not what today is. We do call it Best Bets Thursday, as you see on the left-hand side of the screen here if you're watching. But that doesn't mean it's just best bets. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the Saints. Oh, Lord, UBN's going on a tangent. It is Thursday already. And we have a lot of people here on as part of the Dattitude family. Sometimes they should go feed the pigeons on Sundays. You know who you are. You know who you are. Dylan Smith is here. Who Dat Nation? Good morning. You don't have to be a better team. And look, I've said this before, and I mean this. Like, you remember, I couldn't wait to find out what the picks were when I was a kid. I couldn't bet when I was a kid. I mean, maybe some marbles or something with dumbass Joey or something. But I mean, you're not really betting. It's all about fun anyway. You're watching live. If you don't know so already, you can type in your comment, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook. And if you haven't done so already, it's grow. We had a good week subscription-wise this week. I don't know what it was. It's funny because they come like in droves on one or the other. And no one's like joined the TikTok this. We had almost no subscriptions on TikTok. When last week or 2 weeks ago we went crazy, had none on YouTube. They all came on TikTok. This week they're all on YouTube. So I don't know what's going on. You get access to our shorts. You always know when our shows go live, except for weird weeks like this one. Every Monday through Friday, every weekday except Tuesday live at 11 a.m. Central Time. And you can always watch us after the fact. You can get in touch with me, as many have, on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email at jderry@theadvocate.com. In fact, I have email. Now, it's from Don Hoffman. So I have not read this ahead of time, but I trust him to read this without reading. I just got it this morning. Signing Davante Adams would be a panic move. Our receiver core is fine, says Don. So let's let the Jets have him. I'm still expecting good things from Bub Means. The loss was tough as two of our better young players cost the game. We can play with the Chiefs, but need some breaks to go our way to win. Well, Don, they're not going to make the trade. They wouldn't make the trade before. They wouldn't make the trade before play Kansas City anyway. I mean, he wouldn't just like come over. And the trade deadline, I think, as Gabe told me yesterday, is November the 5th, which is right before week 10, I think. So you still got time there. Kenneth White, where's Cam Jordan? Oof. Man, that's a good question, Ken. That's a really good. You know, we wondered whether Cam Jordan would be back to his old self this year. You're trying to find innovative ways for him to get involved, and he's just been in. I don't remember the last time I heard Cam Jordan's name mentioned in a broadcast. Tackled by Cam. I'm sure he's got a tackler or two, but when is the last time we heard Cam Jordan's name? Sad. So, you know how I said Wednesday, I thought this was Alvin Kamara's last year as a Saint because of his contract and because of his age, combination of things. This might be Cam Jordan's last year. I can't imagine him coming back. I think he's still got a year left in his contract. I can't imagine he's going to come back and if he's not effective at all. Now, I'm going to say this, and I say this about anyone with Cam Jordan's ilk. The same as Drew Brees. He's on the same level to me as Drew Brees. He's earned the right to retire when he wants to. So if he wants to come back, he comes back. You know, I was of the mindset that, and I'll still say this, I wish Drew Brees would have retired at least a year before he did, or 2 years before he did, whenever Tom Brady made his decision, because Tom Brady wanted to come to New Orleans. He waited to choose until, because Drew Brees had thought about retiring. You remember that? And he waited for Drew Brees to make his decision, because if Drew Brees would have retired, Tom Brady would have come here instead of Tampa Bay. There's no doubt in my mind Saints would have won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady here. No doubt in my mind. Zero doubt. Didn't happen. Maybe 2 Super Bowls. Who knows? Sean Payton would probably still be here. Who knows? I don't know. Can you imagine how history would have changed? But that being said, I'm not mad at Drew Brees. He wasn't ready to retire. He earned the right to retire when he wants. I think Cam Jordan's in the same boat. Injury report this morning. We're going to bring on Gabe in just a minute. We're going to do a little different. UBN's going to be the before Tom. So Tom Casale will come on around 11:40. We're going to have Gabe and then UBN and my picks, because I wanted to have Tom come on and be able to talk about my pick. One in particular. Spoiler alert, I do pick the Saints Chiefs game for the third week in a row. The Saints game is in my best bets. No hints. Not going to tell you what I think right now. If you've been watching all week, you kind of know what I think. Kenneth says he believes Monday night will be a trap game for KC. You know, I don't know if trap game is the right word. I don't want to give a spoiler alert. I'll tell you what I think in my pick. UBN says for Cam Jordan this year, 3 tackles, 0 sacks. Wow. 67 Fox and ESPN interviews. You got a point. I don't know, man. I don't want to compare him to a certain politician, but sounds similar, doesn't it? All right. No official injury report on Wednesday because they only had a walkthrough. Today, they will have an official practice. So everything is pushed back a day. We will have an injury report. No show tomorrow. Okay. Program and note, in case you didn't hear me say this yesterday, we will not have our regular Friday show. It's going to be Monday. And so it's kind of everything's pushed back, and the Saints schedule is pushed back on ours too. So we're going to take an extended weekend we are going to reacquaint ourselves with our family. Maybe I finally will get a decent night's sleep. We'll see. So Mono E Monday is going to be Mono E Tuesday. We'll have a Tuesday show. So next week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So no Wednesday show. You got it? You confused yet? I know you are. You'll figure it out. So no show tomorrow. Monday will be the show we usually have with Larry. It will not be with Larry. He can't come on Monday, but we will have a guest. Maybe Doug Mouton, maybe Garland Gillen. I'm going on Garland Gillen show this evening, as a matter of fact. Final bet show on Fox 8 tonight at 10:35 after the news. You'll see me. I'm going to record that in just a little bit. So there you go. That's how our calendar looks like. We'll get a better idea, but obviously on Monday we'll have the full injury report. We might not know officially whether Taysom, DeMario, Willie Gay, Cesar Ruiz, we might not know officially whether they're playing, but we'll have a pretty good idea. I would say this. I think when the report comes out today, you'll see, except for maybe Willie Gay, you'll see, well, I mean, Willie Gay is going to be a DNP, I would imagine. I mean, I don't know if you saw what we had on, I'll show it later, but there's a picture. If you haven't seen it on Instagram, you can find it. It's not hard to find. There's a picture of him sitting in a wheelchair with his arm in a brace, and he looks messed up, man. So if Willie Gay's back, that would be some kind of specialness. Right now, everything I see says Taysom, DeMario, Cesar Ruiz, all questionable. That is unofficial. So we'll find out more this afternoon. Actually, probably in an hour or two if you're watching live by noon or 1 o'clock Central Time, and that'll be on NOLA.com/Saints. You can also follow Luke Johnson. I think he's by Luke Johnson on X. He'll have it up immediately. So, but look, can they play without Taysom Hill? I don't know. Be tough, man. Be tough. Good morning, Randall. Welcome back. Brian says you're witnessing the rapid decline of a Saints GOAT, talking about Cam Jordan. Father Time is undefeated. Here's a half a sack and 1 tackle. Well, Nick, I think Nick looked it up, but whatever. It's all about the same. Chris Kudrain, welcome to the show. Defense will keep the score low, but offense won't get it done to win this one. All right, we're going to look. Y'all come back on Monday because, again, we're going to make our predictions on Monday, and we'll ask you for your predictions. You can give it today if you want. I'm going to give you my prediction. Again, it's in my best bets. The UBN portion of the show, again, coming up in about 10 minutes. It is recorded because UBN is working like normal people do. So he couldn't come on. Let me bring in, it's time for, we're going to start our picks, but we're also going to talk some Saints too. We're going to bring in Gabe Henderson here on Thursdays with Gabe. This is the part of the show where Gabe not only gives us his pick of the week, Big Sean says, Chiefs. Couldn't wait to say that, could you? You give us your best bet, but you also give us a thought of the week. And so I'm interested in your thought. I'm going to steal your thought because I'm going to ask you, what do you think about this game coming up, Saints game coming up? And I never told you I was going to ask you this, but how do you think it matches up? You don't necessarily have to give me a prediction on the game, but how do you think the matchup goes? Is this, something the Saints fans should be scared about, or do you think that, hey, I think it'll be a pretty close game?
I think it'll be a pretty close game, all things considered. I don't know if it's something to be scared about. I mean, everyone's going to be scared to the degree that you always are when you play Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. But other than that, there's nothing really on that Chiefs offense that scares you. Travis Kelce's regressed.
Oh, I'd say.
Putting it lightly.
He's still
capable of having.
By the way, Big Sean's got a question for you. He wants to know who the Astros are playing in the ALDS.
Okay, who did the Dodgers lose to in the NLDS?
I was waiting for that to see. I wasn't going to say it.
Dodgers have one Mickey Mouse ring.
I wasn't going to say it. Big Sean,
Mickey Mouse.
Big Sean's on a roll this morning, man. He's picking the Chiefs. He's getting on Gabe about his Astros.
I mean, next thing you know, he's going to rip Braves fans. For the first time in almost a decade, I can enjoy a relatively stress-free October. So it's a good feeling.
My team sucks, so I have nothing to say. My team didn't make the playoffs again. I don't think they've done anything since we won the World Series back I mean, that was 8 years ago, but I don't think the Cubs have done anything in the last 8 years. They changed their manager for some unknown reason, and that didn't work either. So I have to keep my my things to myself. All right. I don't remember. What was your best bet last week?
Auburn.
How'd that work out for you?
Peyton Thorne threw a pick 6 in the fourth quarter to lose it. They were playing pretty well.
Right.
Mistake-free football. We got them at plus money and looked like they were going to do the damn thing, and then Auburn became Auburn. Who's Hugh Freeze going to blame this week?
I don't know.
That's what it's becoming. I mean,
if
you want to look at, a lot of people like to criticize Brian Kelly, because if you take a look at what Hugh Freeze and Brian Kelly both inherited, they both walked into crap storms, and Hugh Freeze has done absolutely nothing with that Auburn team. He's done nothing.
He's such a D-bag. He really is. I mean,
he's really one of the most hateable figures in college.
I mean, really, isn't it? It's perfect that I can't remember the last Ole Miss coach that left Ole Miss. I'm like, oh man, I wish him well. And it'll be the same with Kiffin when he finally goes bye-bye.
I like Kiffin.
He's a dog. He's an overhyped, overrated bum, in my opinion. Anyway, not that Brian Cavett says he's also an Astros fan, but no, it is what it is. All right, what is your best bet of the week? We've got to get to Uncle Big Nick here because I told Tom to come on around 11:40. What you got?
My best bet of the week actually comes from tonight's game, Thursday Night Football.
Okay.
I was really struggling with what to pick this week, but I eventually landed on this. I like Atlanta to cover the 2 points.
So do I.
Yep. I really like Atlanta tonight. They're at home. They've played well. I won't say they played well against the Saints, but they've played better against the Eagles, against the Chiefs. I don't think Tampa Bay's defense is all that it's cut out to be. They're middle of the road in pass defense, so I'll give you a little preview. I've got a player props piece coming out at 2:00 on bet.nola.com. One thing that I like is Kirk Cousins over passing yards. It's set at 228.5, which is really low. I don't think Tampa Bay's pass defense is all that good. They've played 2 rookies, Jalen Hurts' Eagles, who had no receivers. They were without Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, and they're still middle of the road. And then the rush defense isn't that good. So I like Bijan Robinson to eat tonight, but I think it'll be a close game.
We've been liking Bijan Robinson to eat, and they just can't figure out that they have maybe the best running back.
Well, he ate the first 2 weeks. Played well the first 2 weeks.
Randall doesn't like that you picked Atlanta, but you got to remember, Randall, honestly, I think Saints fans probably, I mean, I know it's early, but really, I guess you're technically rooting for Atlanta to win, right? Because if Atlanta wins and the Saints win, Saints are back up there in first place. I'm just saying. I know it's early. I don't know who you're rooting
yes
for.
And no.
Yeah, yes and no. It's definitely
because at the same point, if Atlanta wins and then the Saints lose to Tampa Bay,
yeah, I guess.
Then it's
whoops, wrong one. Randall says Free's going to blame his wife this time because she didn't. Oh man, maybe
Freeze got people. If I recall, he's got people on call for that.
I don't know. Donald says Atlanta will lose. Do you think Atlanta will lose because you want Atlanta to lose, or do you see? This is we throw out. If you've watched this show on a Thursday, in the last 2 weeks, in my best bets, I predicted the Eagles, and I predicted Atlanta last week. So we don't use any bias. This is our best bet show. Not that we've done great. Big Sean says if Atlanta and the Saints win, we will be in second place.
Based on tiebreaker.
Well, I guess they would be 2-0 in division play
with a win over the Saints. Yeah. This is Tampa Bay's first division game.
Yeah. So, but anyway, whatever. I know this: if the Saints win in Atlanta, that they would still be in second place either way. I don't know. It's early.
One thing that
it's hard to root for Atlanta anyway, but
yeah, of course. One thing that I kind of like is also the under.
Yeah.
Thursday night football games are ugly usually.
Good point. Well, I will just say this: I am
my best bet. I'll go with Atlanta.
I'm 4-0. I'm 4-0 with my Thursday night picks, and I don't want to give too much away because it's coming up in my best bets. We will talk to you on Monday. Have a good weekend, Gabe.
Sounds good.
All right. Gabe Henderson, everybody, as we get to, it's time. We got to get moving. We got UBN. He is 18 minutes, 22 seconds. Our regular segment. It's all a lot of fun. It was recorded yesterday, but if you have any comments while we're going on, I will show them as we move along. It's me and UBN, and then it'll be followed up by Tom Casale and I having a lot of fun. We'll talk Saints. We have Saints in the UBN section coming up here because we both have it in our picks, I think. I know Tom does anyway. Lots of Saints coming up. Stick around.
Uncle Big, can we make some picks today? Well, can we please?
All right, we don't need to rehash all this mess. You had a bad week. I had a worse week. The only good news is I got my 5-point pick right. I was 1-4 last week. Hooks, crap, whatever else. I don't care. We're not talking about it anymore. We're moving on, and we're going to make people.
Can I give you some good news?
Please.
Today is the last day without football to November 27th. 55 straight days of at least one game of college or pro.
You like to throw that out there every year.
I love it. It's beautiful. I'm either going to be broke or rich at the end of 55 days.
Well, that's for people who actually watch like Akron and
Maction's awesome. I got to get you on
Toledo.
Maction. Tuesday night football, it's wonderful.
Oh, it's God. Thank God for that. No, you're right. I can't wait. Akron and Toledo. Please let me know when they play each other. I got to watch. All right. We're doing this a little bit different. It's the same scheme, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The only difference is we're not showing you the whole thing at one time. We're going to make you wait for the picks. We're going to make you wait. Picks. No, that's how I know they're going to be good. By God, we're going to be good. All right. We're going to get rolling here. Again, Nick is about to go on fire. I'm just telling you. I was 1 week off. I know it's going to happen this week. And it starts this week. You're straying away from what you know best. You're not.
Went up to -3.
Yeah, -3. Jacksonville -3 over the Indianapolis Colts.
I don't know. I'm addicted to betting on Jacksonville for some reason.
I know.
It's just 10 in a row. I mean, they're gonna go 10 in a row with Fabio. I mean, I don't know. It's just. I just think at some point they gotta win, and I feel like I'm buying low on Jacksonville right now and selling high with Indy. Indy just come off beating undefeated Pittsburgh. Flacco comes in.
It is a weird
like an elite
spread.
Quarterback. It's a weird spread. Who wants to bet on Jacksonville right now, giving up a field goal?
Apparently you do.
I do. I mean, I'm just going to do it. That's why it's my number one pick. I mean, it's 1 point. I've been really good with my 1 point pick, which is weird.
I don't endorse nor do I put the deny stamp on it. I ain't.
This is one of those. I'm throwing it out there. And I'm probably not even going to watch this game. It's not going to be on Red Zone, but later on I'll be like, hey, look, I won the Jacksonville bet.
It'll be somewhere. I mean, it'll be.
They should have won. They should have beat Houston last week.
Isn't there a Trash Channel game of the week? I think that one's on. It might be on there.
I told you we need to do the game that you have to be paid to sit down and watch all 4 quarters of every week.
That's it.
That's it this week?
That might be it. All right. Speaking of games that might be torturous for some Hoodats to watch, it's on Thursday Night Football this week. It's my 1 point pick. It's the Atlanta Falcons giving 1.5 points to the Bucs. Look, I get the Bucs have been pretty good, and the Falcons have just still feeling their way. But Falcons are at home. I think, look, when you start getting a little bit lucky, as I think the Falcons got a little lucky last week, the Buccaneers have not been consistent. Now you're going on the road to play the Falcons. Give me the Dirty Birds here. I think they're going to keep their roll going. I like Atlanta, and I think Kirk Cousins is starting to feel his way. Even though he had a bad week last week, overall, his numbers weren't that bad. He just couldn't get in the end zone. So if he can find a way to get to Kyle Pitts and they can give the ball to Bijan Robinson, they'll be just fine. And I think they know Tampa as well as anybody.
I like this because I think Atlanta would be able to run on Tampa. Tampa gives up like 130 yards a game. The only game they didn't was 110 yards last week to Philly, but Philly only gave the ball to Saquon 12 times. Like, you're not winning like that. With Devontae out, AJ out, and you don't give the ball to your best player, it don't make no sense.
You know how you're going 10 games in a row, they got to win one? Well, 10 games in a row, Atlanta's got to figure out that they might have the best running back in football. At some point, they're going to figure out they got the best running back in football.
I think Atlanta is going to catch fire in the second half of the season.
There's no doubt in my mind they will. I know who that's don't want to hear that, but I really do.
I think the more Kirk Cousins gets involved in the offense, the more they figure this out with Cousins, I think they're going to trend upward at the end of the year.
Which is why last week was such a bummer for Saints, because they really needed to be 2 games ahead of the Falcons instead of just tied with them. But that's a whole different story. All right, going back to where you feel the most comfortable, and that's college football. You did okay with your over-unders last week. We got one here. You got the Penn State UCLA under 46. Is this just because you don't think UCLA can score?
Exactly. I mean, the point spread's 28. I don't trust giving up 4 touchdowns here. Yeah, the only thing with that is that James Franklin, he seems to be one of them coaches that knows the spread.
Yeah.
So if they're winning 24-0, they might score to cover the 28. But I still can't see. I can't see. I don't know, 10 points by UCLA barely. I mean, UCLA scored a little bit against LSU, but this Penn State
not in the second half.
is a lot better. Yeah, not in the second half either. So I love this pick with this under. I mean, it might be 24-3.
Yeah, I'm a fan of this pick. I'm all over it. I'm with you on this one. All right, my 2-point pick is an old rivalry of sorts. They used to play a lot in the Super Bowl. Now they're just kind of like, How about the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers? Cowboys are getting 2.5 from the Steelers. And look, I know the Steelers started out undefeated, finally got their first loss last week. They're still a mess at quarterback. And look, I get they've got a good rush, but the Cowboys can get around the rush. They don't need to worry about a rush. They still can throw the football. They're not going to try to run anyway. So I like the Cowboys. Yeah, I think they win straight up. If you're going to give me 2.5, I really like it.
Yeah, I like this pick too. I kind of like the under in this game too.
Yeah, I would go under if I had to pick one.
I can't see either one of these teams putting up a lot of points. And I think Justin Fields, it's like after last week or something, it's 0-20 or something if the other team puts up 20 points. It's something like that. Like he's really bad if the other team puts up 20-something points, and Dallas is going to put up 20.
Well, I think Pittsburgh's about to go through a world of hurt. We've talked plenty about their second half schedule, and it's brutal. But it's not that great here either. I think they're going through a stretch here where they might slip up a little bit. I still like they're under 7 wins. They're under 8 wins for the season. We'll see. We'll see if they get there or not. Starts here. I like Dallas to win this one straight up. All right, your 3-point pick. You going back to the college ranks. You going to point spread. Pittsburgh, you're not jumping on the Aunt Mabel bandwagon and everybody hating on North Carolina, are you?
No, Pitt's a good team. Everybody's hating on North Carolina, but has this team given up? Like you lose 70-50 to James Madison. You come out, you're beating your rival 17-0 at halftime. You're feeling good. You lose the game to your biggest rival 21-20 after giving up 14 in the fourth quarter. Like, how can this team be up for another game? Pitt's 4-0. They're really good. They've got a good offense. I think if Pitt comes out and gets on them 14-0, what's this team going to play for? Like, I just can't see the morale being that good in North Carolina right now.
All right, this is another one where I neither endorse nor I would have put the stamp that I was going to go against you and bet against you, but you made a good point, so I'm just going to say I'm staying away from it. You made a really good point there. So Pitt is playing better than I think most people expected. I
mean, they're a good team.
All right, here's the one that everyone's been waiting for. What am I going to pick? Saints, Chiefs. I mean, Chiefs going to kill them, right? And look, I tell you, the way that I think that it is, I think this is a great spot for the Saints here. I know that we still don't have the full injury report. We don't know exactly what's going to happen as we record this, but I have a gut feeling Taysom's going to play. And I think Kansas City, without Pacheco and Rice, the way they played last week against the Chargers, they're not going to get away with it if they play that way against the Saints, in my opinion. I'm going to give you the upset special. I think the Saints win the game straight up here on a Monday night. One of the shocking wins for the Saints, maybe in the last couple of years, as a 5.5-point underdog. I'm at least going to take the points. This spread started at 5.5, went back to 5, and is now back at 5.5. I just really suspect, Nick, the Saints are going to play well, and if they don't win, I think they're going to keep it close. 2 heartbreaking losses. They haven't been blown out this season. I know it's Kansas City, but something's not right with the Chiefs. It's as much as me believing the Saints are better as I believe that the Chiefs aren't the Chiefs of old, at least not right now in the early part of October. Let
me ask you a question. I know you think the Saints are going to win this game, but you said if the Chiefs win, it'd be close. It's always close with the Chiefs. They don't cover often.
They don't.
How do you feel about? I think the Saints are plus 140 on the money line or something like that. But the Chiefs to win the game between
I think it's like 190.
Well, the Chiefs to win the game between 1 and 5 points is plus 250. Like that, I think that's a better bet than betting the spread or betting the Saints money line.
Yeah, if you're gonna, if you want to stay away from it and you're scared to bet it, but I don't think Saints fans aren't gonna want to bet it that way. So
no. I mean, but you take the fandom out of it. I'm talking about this is a betting show. This ain't a Saints
and I will say
fan bet.
this: I have been making money on betting against the Saints because last week I said that I was betting the money line. We can't, by our rules, I can't put anything that's more than minus 120 on the screen. So I was all set to put Falcons money line, and then it went from minus 120 to minus 130. So I was forced to make a spread pick.
I was forced to bet minus 2.5 and lost.
So it is what it is. And but I've made a lot of money betting against the Saints the past couple of weeks.
Well, if anybody's gonna know how to bet the Saints, it's you. So I mean,
I'm telling you, this is a bet I'm going to make. I'm not just throwing that out there. I am going to make this bet. I like the Saints this week. Again, Derek Carr's 3-14 against the Chiefs. Yes, he is. But he's won like every fifth game. He's won every fifth game. And I don't like this trend. He hasn't won the last 4 games against them.
He hasn't been on his Saints team for that 3-14. That Raiders team was awful. He was on.
Right.
This team is a lot better.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Anyway, we're going to talk more about this on Monday's show, obviously, when we do the preview. But that is my 3-point pick, Saints plus 5.5 over the Kansas City Chiefs. Moving on to Nick's pick. You got another over-under. Again, I like you've been doing well with these. I'm going to just follow you. I'm not going to even ask you any questions. You got Navy Air Force over 35.5. Usually when I see this number that low, I usually like to go against it. But I'm definitely not betting against you with an over-under.
I've been riding this Navy train of over all year because they actually have a passing offense this year. They have an efficient passing offense. And they might get this over by themselves. Air Force has given up 383 yards through the air this year per game. Navy leads the country in air yards per game, like up in the air as far as you throw it, throw long passes and stuff like that. And they have a great running game. So I think this number is too low. I think they counting on history here with, military academy games. I really think this number is way too low.
Well, I will say this, and again, people might look at the record and say, what does UBN know? He's 5-15. The one thing he's been great at so far this year, and the other 2 years that he's been on this show, or 3 years, however long it's been, over-unders, he knows his totals. I'm going with you. So I don't have an opinion, but I'm going to jump on your train. I'm going to bet this on Saturday. All right, my 4-point pick is Houston Texans, Buffalo Bills. Look, I'm believing in the Texans, especially at home. I know the Bills, they go through little mini periods of sloppiness, and they look terrible last week. And I know they don't get beat. They don't get routed hardly ever. And last week was an anomaly, and I had the wrong side on that one for sure. But I can see them going into a little lull. It's something that the Bills do often. Meanwhile, the Texans have been super steady, and they've been really good at home. I think they've won 9 out of their last 11 at home. C.J. Stroud loves playing at home. You're going to give a point to the Texans. I think the Texans and the Bills are pretty close to even. I think the Bills have a slight edge, but this game's being played in Houston. My power ratings say that actually the Texans should be about a 1-point favorite, so you're 2 points off here. Give me the Texans at home against the Bills plus 1.
Yeah, I love this pick too. I like betting C.J. Stroud at home and betting against him on the road. Like this Buffalo team, they got just manhandled against Baltimore. And I know Houston is not the same team as Baltimore, but I can see this. Buffalo does these trends where they'll lose 3 or 4 in a row sometimes and just
especially
play bad.
Against the spread. Yeah,
against the spread, stuff like that. So I really like this pick. Did you see Derrick Henry? He ran 22 miles an hour on that 87-yard run.
I thought he was still running.
Can you imagine trying to tackle that?
No.
Like it's like trying to tackle a smart car.
Yeah, if you were the safety in front of that, and like, I think they're just going to score.
Cramp. One guy tried to tackle him. He got out the whole game. He told he was trying to tackle him.
Concussion, just trying to get in front of him.
No way.
No, I'm with you. All right, drum roll, please. Your 5-point pick. It's a college pick. It's a spread. It is UNLV, the Running Rebs against the Cuse. You're giving 6.5 points to the Cuse?
Yes.
Okay.
UNLV is another team that's really good. They lost their quarterback, but they loved his backup quarterback, and they're playing hard for him. And I think UNLV has a lot to prove with this kid that left because of his NIL deal. They got a lot to prove, saying that, you don't deserve that money. This is us doing this. And I love what the new quarterback said when he came in, when he did his press conference. He said they ought to take the $100,000 and give it to the lineman, the offensive lineman. You think the linemen and these kids ain't going to want to play for this guy that's going to come in and say something like that, even if you don't believe it? Like, that's leadership right there, and that's something they rallied last week and routed the team they played, and now I just think they keep it rolling.
Well, I'm going to tell you why I really like your picks this week. Because you did not take Ball State. Are they on a bye or something?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I'm waiting for Maction. Maction's coming up. 55 games in a row.
I can't wait. I can't wait till we get Ball State.
I'm pretty sure this is a Friday night game too.
Okay. All right. Well, my number. Look, I haven't been great everywhere else, but for some reason I've been nailing my top picks. So let's see if I can keep the streak going. This week I do not have the Cincinnati Bengals in there. I've been having the Cincinnati Bengals a lot. The Chicago Bears. They're giving 4 points to the Carolina Panthers. Am I believing in Caleb Williams? No. I'm just believing that the Panthers really stink. I don't care that they were really good 2 weeks ago and they were okay last week, losing by, if you want to call losing by 10 at home to Cincinnati, okay, then okay. But you're talking about a mediocre team only giving 4 points to one of the worst teams in the league. I don't care if the Red Water Pistols quarterback. I don't care who's quarterback in Carolina. They're not any good. I was wrong about Carolina. They're not even, I said maybe they'd be slightly below average. No, they're terrible. They have potentially going to be the worst team in the league. And I don't understand why the Bears know how to beat bad teams. They've already done it. They've won 2 games this year against bad teams, including the Rams. Anyway,
I like this pick, though. I think you just
beat bad teams. They're good against bad teams is my point. And here they got a bad team.
Did Dr. Dom help you get over your COVID, and that's why you had to pick this?
No, because if it was Dr. Dom, I would have put him in the one spot. I wouldn't have gave him free reign at
that
the top.
much credit. I got you.
Yeah. So
the Rams kind of messed you over last week with the Bears, so I think you just jumping on this bandwagon to try and get it back.
Maybe. I don't think it's psychological.
I don't think the Bears should give Shaw 4 points, but that's just my opinion.
Oh, come on, man. But you said you like to pick.
I do, but I don't like to put 4 points.
All right. Well, we'll see how we do, and hopefully next week we'll have lots of.
Hey, I want to ask you a question before we get off.
All right.
Travis Hunter, have you watched him play?
Of course. How can you not watch?
Shouldn't he win the Heisman?
No, they're going to give it to Dor Sanders.
If the Heisman is the best athlete in college football, how do you not give it to that kid? You need to change the. You got to change the people.
No, you got the same kind of people voting on that as you do leaving Pete Rose out of the Hall of Fame. But don't get me
started. You change the name to the best quarterback on the best team, and that's who gets the Heisman.
I agree, but that's what the Heisman.
I watched this kid play football. It's just amazing.
Except when Peyton Manning actually deserved it, and they gave it to Charles Woodson, but that's a whole different story.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Anyway,
that kid's amazing.
He is. But look. We'll see. We'll talk about it maybe we'll talk about that next week. Good luck, Uncle Big Nick. May we both have winning weeks for the first time. It's October. We got to start winning, right?
Yeah, October playoff baseball. Now we get
55 days in a row of football.
Yes. All Anybody wants my matching picks, just hit me up on Twitter.
We'll see you next week.
Later.
I was getting some laughs. I'm just saying, people were laughing because I picked the Saints. You weren't laughing when I picked against them. You were getting mad. Now you're laughing at me. Which one is it? Why? Because it's the Chiefs? What is so high and mighty about the Chiefs this year? They're 4-0. They struggled against, I think the Chargers are mediocre at best, and they were banged up last week. Something's up with Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't look right. Before we get to Tom Casale, who will be coming up in just a moment with his best bets, he has taken the lead on me. Leads me by a point. Got 26 points. Got 25. Before we get to that, the rest of the show, let me continue the story about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Are you looking to get out of the rat race and sell your family-run or privately held business? To do so, you have to take the first step. You might not even know what that is. Well, my friends at Evangeline can guide you along that path, and you'll know what's up at every stage. Managing partners Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt from New Orleans came back home to help the people they love from New York City. They'll maximize the value for your family-owned and privately held business, and they do that first by scheduling a complimentary valuation. Then you can make an informed decision about what's best for you and yours and the people who have been loyal to you for all these decades. Stick around to hear more later in the show, but in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Okay, let's move on. You see my picks. Yep, the Saints. You can laugh all you want. I got a feeling, though, this is not the end of our picks with the Saints. I'm just saying, because we're going to bring on Thomas Casale now, betting director at sports director, bet.nola.com. I always screw it up. But Tom, I'm just saying, it's probably not the last we're going to hear about the Saints Chiefs game in this show. What do you think?
Probably not.
All right. We got a couple comments before we get to your picks. Big Sean is messing with Gabe. He's saying go Dodgers. Brian is saying he could see the Saints winning. His worry is Kelsey has a good game. Kelsey hasn't done jack squat yet. Just saying. There's no Rashee Rice, no Isaiah Pacheco. But you know what, Tom? We're going to get to your pick because I believe your Saints Chiefs is your 1-point pick. First, last week, you have taken the lead on me. You had 7 points last week. I got my number one. I got my 5-point pick right. I got everything else wrong. Missed by a hook. Got it. I'm not going to make excuses. I just stunk. And LSU's off this week. Real quick, what do you think about Tulane UAB before we get to your picks? We have given them no love. Tulane is a 15-point favorite over the Trent Dilfers. They looked really good last week.
Yeah, UAB is terrible. I have Navy over 5.5 wins, and last week was a big game because Navy got to 4-0. And I watched them against UAB, and UAB had no. I mean, it felt like Navy could score every time they had the ball. So I don't know, unless, listen, it's college football, it's on the road. Maybe Tulane's not focused. Maybe they're looking ahead to some other stuff. But if they come to play, listen, UAB, you kind of knew when they hired Trent Dilfer last year, you were looking at them as a potential fade down the road. I think we're at that point now. I
agree wholeheartedly. And look, if Tulane plays their game, I'm just simply not going to bet against them. I'm going to pick spots. I'm either going to bet on Tulane or not going to bet it at all, because when they play their game in this conference, this bad conference they're in, they're going to win a lot of football games, and they're going to win a lot of them by plenty of points. So we'll see. I think they're only going to get better as the season goes along. All right, let's get to your picks. We're going to finish your segment here. We'll talk about the top 3 games in college football, the top 3 games in the NFL. But first, we want to get to your picks and do them the same way as we did with Uncle Big Nick. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll start off with your 1-point pick, and guess what? It's the New Orleans Saints. We're on the same boat here. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we're both taking the Saints plus 5.5 against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you look at these two teams, the Saints lost 2 really tough games. The Chiefs keep finding ways to win, which is credit to them. They have the best player on the planet. But I don't know if people are making enough about the Rashee Rice injury. If you watch the first few games, I don't know if there was a more important receiver in football. Because, listen, you say what you want about Kelsey. Kelsey's getting older. You know what I mean? Like, Kelsey's not the same guy he was 3 years ago. And there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. The guy's making millions of dollars outside of football. He's prepared, but you can't tell me traveling around the world and doing movies. And, think about when wrestlers do movies. They have to take time off. So it's a lot on him. And I don't know if he's going to be that guy that you can just depend on. So I really thought the emergence of Rashee Rice I was like, wow, how are you going to beat this team? Now that he's hurt and you have no Pacheco, right? They're trying to piece together a running game with 3 different guys. 5.5 more than a field goal just seems like a lot of points in this spot.
Yeah, and Xavier Worthy's I think he's going to turn into a great receiver, but you lose Rashee Rice, which takes a big chunk of your big play offense. I think that's a huge piece that you're going to be missing. Never really even talked about that. So to be missing Pacheco and to be missing Rice, you're going to have to figure a way to get Worthy more involved. That may take a little time.
Mm-hmm.
And Tom, I just think that the Chiefs have kind of been doing smoke and mirrors. People could say that the refs have helped them, whatever. I don't necessarily believe that, but I will say that they have been a little lucky to be 4-0 for sure.
Yeah, they're a little lucky, and they have a quarterback who makes plays when they need plays made, right? Like I know Mahomes has been hard on himself, and he hasn't been, but whether it's Brady, Mahomes, or Drew Brees, who you watch for years, even if they're not having a good game, don't leave them in the game, because in the final couple minutes they'll make a play. And if you look at the Saints, listen, I don't know what that run was down by the freaking goal line last week. I'm so mad about it. I almost swore on here. I just felt like they had. I feel like every time I've seen since I've been here, I watch the Saints and the Falcons. I feel like the Saints have like 20 opportunities to win the game, and somehow they screw it up. But listen, they lost to two good teams close. A couple of bounces here or there. Think about it.
They'd be 4-0.
If they got a couple of bounces, right? What's the line? It's not 5.5.
No, it's not.
So I just think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be I think the defenses are going to kind of dominate this game. That's why I like the 5.5 too. I don't think this is going to be 38-31. I think it's going to be more like 2017 kind of game, because I think that's the kind of game the Chiefs are going to have to play now.
Yeah, and Rob has a good point. Chiefs don't care about covering. They why would they change that now? And here's a little stat for you I heard this morning. The Chiefs with Mahomes, when they are favored by more than 3, are 38-41-3 against the spread. So that's certainly not an overwhelming number. And they play a lot of close games. And look, even though I picked the Saints, I think the Saints are going to win straight up. I really do. I think it's a good spot for them. I think they're going to play their best football on Monday night. I think this team is better than I thought they were coming into the season. And I think the Chiefs are due for some kind of weird letdown loss. I think this is it. We'll see if I'm right or not. All right, we're going to move on. We will, after time goes off, I'll obviously finish the show with Saints. So stick around for that. We're going to move on and talk about your 2-point pick.
Yeah, so, the last couple of weeks, I've done well giving you one of those FCS games. And the lines weren't out before I sent them in, or I would have given you Brown over Bryant. So keep that in the back of your mind. But listen, UCF is a favorite over Florida, which I know how bad Florida is, but this is a UCF team that just got blasted at home by Colorado. I wanted to take Florida. I really did. But then as I looked at the game, I was like, Jesus, how are either of these teams going to stop each other? It's going to be up and down. I also, if you don't want to take the over 61.5, I like the Florida 29.5 team total over, because if you watch UCF the last 2 weeks, their defense is awful. They played TCU, they played Colorado. They can't stop anybody. So weather permitting, I think this game's going to be pretty high scoring.
UCF over 61.5 is Tom's 2-point pick. Let's move on to his 3-point pick, and that is the Stanford, the Fighting Trees. I can't get used to them being in the ACC. It is when I'm looking for these because I have all my logos together by conference, and still sometimes I'm struggling. Like, where are they again? Stanford +8 over Virginia Tech.
Well, that's kind of why you're looking at some of these betting strategies now, and that matters. So Virginia Tech probably had the worst loss of the college football season last week in terms of emotional. They were beating Miami the entire game. Then Miami takes the lead. They needed a throw into the end zone. The referee says touchdown. They review it. I thought it probably wasn't a catch, but based on the review rules, they usually don't overturn those. So you have a team of, I
thought it was ridiculous, by the way.
Yes, you have a team of 18 and 19-year-old kids who just went through that. I always think it takes a couple days for them to get that out of their head and practice. And now you got to fly across country to lowly old Stanford. And Troy Taylor at Stanford is doing a good job of getting the talent level up there. They're still not where they need to be to compete, but I think as a home underdog, especially of over a touchdown, they're going to be a profitable play this year. So I think I like to bet spots and situations. To me, this is the best spot to fade a team so far this college football season.
I like the pick, and I think you're right about emotions. And I mean, that's the kind of, the game that you don't necessarily give up, but you might go a couple weeks without, the what if game. So Virginia Tech could be in that spot there. Still, to see Stanford in the ACC is just absurd. But that's a whole different story. That's a different show. All right, your 4-point pick. Going back to the pros, got the Green Bay Packers -3 against the Rams. Man, what a comeback. Green Bay almost found a way to win despite being in a 4-touchdown hole last week.
Yeah, I'm going to go square on this one. When I was watching the Packers last week, I was like, you could tell Jordan Love was rusty. He started to come on. I'm like, geez, who do they play next week? And it was the team that I think right now is pure fate material, only because they're so beat up. They're so injured.
They really are.
And I just think this is Green Bay lost last week. They're coming back now, the second game with Jordan Love. I still like this Packers team. I like their defense, and I just think they're going to put a ton of pressure on Matthew Stafford with all those offensive line issues. So listen, everyone in the world's going to be on the Packers this week. I get that, but I just like the play, especially when it went down to 3. It's a field goal. Even if the game's close, I think the Packers pull it out.
And going cross country is the only thing that kept me off this game. Actually, in my picks column, my power ratings and my prediction have it exactly as Green Bay winning by 3. It's just a stay away game for me. But I think part of the reason why I stayed off of Green Bay is, like you said, it's a square pick, which makes me nervous. I don't want to be on the same side.
Well, and to be honest though, Jim, if you're playing the odds, some of these square plays gotta come in, because
you're right. No,
90% of the country is out of survivor pools right now because there's
been
so many upsets. I think, hey, maybe it's time for a square week. They gotta win sometimes.
That's true.
Nobody be able to come to the books to give them money.
Yeah, I mean, Aunt Mabel's not going to have any more Social Security checks if she doesn't find a way to win soon. So I'm with you. All right, let's get to your top pick of the week. Your 5-point pick is Washington. It's a rematch. It's a rematch of the national championship game, -2.5 over the Michigan Wolverines in what is now a Big Ten game. Another one I can't get used to. You like Will Rogers and the Huskies. I can't get used to him not being in the SEC. It's just a strange game all over. But I can't wait to hear your reasoning for this one. I like this pick.
Yeah, and this is not a public play, obviously. You have undefeated Michigan, who's ranked, going to Washington, and look who's the underdog, Michigan. Okay, so here's what we got. Washington should be undefeated. If they knew how to call a 4th down play against Washington State, and I had Rutgers last week as a 5-point pick, and I still don't know how I won the game. They lost every statistical category. The field goal kicker for Washington missed 3 field goals. So you look at Michigan, this is their first road game of the season. They've played all their games at home, and they still don't have a quarterback. I understand with Orgy in there, they've scored a few more points, but you realize he has barely over 100 yards passing the last 2 weeks. Now you got to go on the road to a raucous Washington Stadium with a quarterback who can't really throw the ball. This is my favorite play of the year. I wish that I wish the line was a little different. I mean, but this is just screaming to bet Washington. It really is. And the spot is screaming to bet Washington too. In all honesty, I think Washington wins easy. I think Michigan might get blown out on Saturday.
UBN says it would have been, if he had a 6th pick, this would have been number 6 on his list. And I tell you what, I love picks when you look at and the line doesn't make, if the casual better, you just look and the line doesn't make sense. And that is the case here. They're going to automatically go with Michigan, and that's where the squares are going to lose. So I really do like this pick as well. This is a good spot here. Tom says this is play of the year so far.
Yeah, I'm not a tout. I'm not telling you to bet 10,000. I'm just saying it's my favorite play.
We would never do that here.
It's funny that UBN said that because I saw he had the over in Navy Air Force. That was my 6th pick. I understand these games always go under, but one thing to remember in that game, Navy has a new kind of new age option offense that Air Force has never seen before. They're not running the old triple option. So this is a different kind of attack. And I think with the line being so low, I think he's on to something with that over.
And I will say this again, UBN, his record doesn't look very good, but for 3 years now, when he gives me a total, I'm going to have to go back and look, but I bet he's about 70% on his totals. He hits the totals. Maybe you should just stick to that. I don't know. All right, before we go to the next screen, I want to ask you real quick. What do you think about LSU, their bye week? They play Ole Miss. I actually like the spot in early. I don't know what the spread's going to be. I haven't looked at the look ahead, but I will say this about LSU. I think they're going to get Ole Miss at a decent time. Ole Miss is going to be just fighting mad this week against South Carolina. They got to go on the road, play South Carolina. Then they're going to have to come to Baton Rouge after this all this emotion's going to come out of them. Then they're going to head to Baton Rouge. I think it's an interesting spot. LSU coming off the bye week. Ole Miss will not have had a bye week.
I agree. I think it's a good spot for LSU. This is what I'm hoping. I'm hoping during the bye week, they get together and they say, listen, you five right here, you're supposed to be one of the best offensive lines in the country.
Right.
That's it now. We're whatever happened. We're going to line up and we're going to use you five and we're going to run the ball at an Ole Miss team that you can run the football on, who has not been tested really by a bunch of good offenses, and we're going to mash them into the ground. If they do that, I think LSU has a good chance to win.
I agree wholeheartedly. And look, LSU's got a great chance. We'll talk about it more next week. Tom will be with us next Thursday. We'll certainly preview the heck out of it, but I will say this. LSU has a chance to make its move. They want to get back into that conversation to get in the college football playoff. They do it by beating Ole Miss, because if they win that game, they'll be back into the top 10, almost certainly. We'll see how it goes. All right, I want to talk about the top games of the week, and since we don't have a lot to talk about with LSU and Tulane, I made two different sides here. We got the top 3 in college football. We got the top 3 in the NFL. Before we get to this real quick, I want to ask you your thoughts. Thursday night football tonight, Falcons and Bucks. It is in my best bets. It is Gabe's best bet of the week. We both like Atlanta -1.5. What do you think about tonight? I think that's an interesting line for the Falcons being at home.
Yeah, I like the Falcons too. Speaking of, the Bucks have some injuries as well, and I think Atlanta is going to be able to take care of it. The only thing that makes me nervous is if the game is close at the end and I have to depend on Raheem Morris making the right decisions because he likes to screw those late game situations up. But listen, I think one of the things we got to do now in football betting, I think, with the NFL is Atlanta's got a pretty good team. A lot of people thought that coming into the season. I don't know how much you can take from the first month anymore. These guys don't play in the preseason. I mentioned this last week. When I worked for the Patriots back in the day, Tom Brady used to play 3 quarters every preseason. He used to play a quarter in one game and a half in another. That's Tom Brady. And guys just don't play anymore. And I think it takes these teams, especially when you bring in a new coaching staff, a little bit of time. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta made a statement tonight and wins this game pretty convincingly.
I agree wholeheartedly. And also these sharps that I listen to on a regular basis had a good point this morning. The NFL may become more like the NBA in the sense of, especially when they move to an 18-game schedule, which is coming, where guys just take games off. And I don't mean like take games off in the field, like literally take a game off, where normally you'd be questionable, oh, he's definitely going to play even though it's questionable. Might be the opposite way now, because you save these guys, especially if you're a playoff team, guys who might normally play in the spot, let's give them a week off just to be safe. We saw it last week, I think, a lot, and I think you're going to see that going forward. Maybe the case when you're talking about getting ready early in the season. You'll see that more in September, where guys won't play as much. You'll have a lot more off periods going forward, and I do think it's a lot because of the lack of preseason and less practice time against other teams. All right, we already talked about Michigan, Washington. I did put it in the top 3 games because, look, I gotta say this. When I was going through the game, this is like one of the weakest slates of college football weeks I've seen in a while.
This is the calm before the storm.
Exactly, because what is it, 2 weeks from now?
Well, the next week is a huge week. Then you have Ohio State, Oregon the week after that, and then you're looking at Texas, Georgia. I mean, you're now after this week is where you start.
It won't be hard to find 3 games.
Yeah.
And I know you had said, we made a joke earlier in the season that people were talking about getting married in October on Saturdays.
Yeah, October 12th.
Okay, October 12th. You said you wouldn't even go to your own wedding. I hope your wife doesn't hear that, by the way. All right. First game I want to talk about. We already talked kind of about Ole Miss and South Carolina. We may gloss over that, but I do want to ask you your thoughts. Missouri, Texas A&M. This is intriguing to me because, look, Texas A&M's definitely been better than I thought they would be. So far, I think there's no question about that. But Missouri, a lot of people expected them to be in the top 6, top 8, and maybe they are right now. This is a true barometer of where these teams are. Missouri getting 2.5 at Texas A&M on Saturday morning.
Yeah, I like Missouri as the underdog here. I
Okay.
know some people are on Texas A&M. I was on A&M against Notre Dame in week 1. I just, I don't know if you can. I don't know if they have the passing attack to hurt Missouri. I think this is going to be a lower scoring, ugly game. And Missouri got by far the better quarterback. They have a weapon in Luther Burden at receiver. I think they're going to make a play somewhere along here to steal the win, but I would expect this to be a lower scoring kind of SEC slugfest.
And I'll tell you, what might be a good parlay if you like the under, because those two don't normally correspond. If you're thinking you like Missouri, normally you would go with an over. That might be a sneaky parlay, going Missouri, taking the points, or maybe even the money line and going with the under 48.5. That might be a nice little sneaky parlay. If you did money line with the under, you probably get like a plus 300 bet there. That'd be an interesting way to go. All right, let's just talk real quick. We kind of glossed over what Ole Miss needs to do. They're going to come in fighting mad against South Carolina. That's a lot of points, because I don't think the Gamecocks are that bad. They're kind of one-dimensional in a way, but if I got to take a team, I think Ole Miss really could look really good in this game. Some teams don't play well when they're mad. I think the Fighting Lane Kiffins will. I don't think they're thinking about LSU at all, which is good for the Tigers, but not good for South Carolina. I think Ole Miss might blow the doors off the Gamecocks here.
Yeah, and I think we have to, give a nod to Kentucky's defense.
Yeah,
They
you
shut
do.
down Ole Miss and Georgia. One is okay, maybe that's an exception, but two, that maybe their defense is really good.
Yeah.
It's hard to shut down those two teams. So that's kind of what I think we're going to see. I think Ole Miss's offense gets back on track this week, and we realize that Kentucky's defense isn't a joke. And when you go play them, you might beat them, but it's going to be 17-13 kind of game. So I like Ole Miss's offense to get healthy this week.
Yeah, I think we're both in agreement there. And then we already talked about Michigan at Washington. Tom's best bet, and says his best bet of the year, but we're only putting a couple bucks, maybe a dinner at Chick-fil-A, whatever. Not a whole lot, but we still think it's best bet. Tom likes Washington at home -2.5 and a weird spread for sure. All right, let's move on to the NFL. And no Larry Holder tomorrow, no show here tomorrow, because the Saints play on Monday. We're going to take an extended weekend here on Dattitude. So we're going to talk about the top games in the NFL this weekend. And I don't think there's a bigger game. This is one of the biggest games of the season so far. I don't think we know what the Bengals are. Ravens at Bengals. And are we believing in Baltimore because they had one good week, Tom? Because I don't know that I am. And Ravens going to Baltimore. This series has kind of been back and forth. Joe Burrow knows how to beat Lamar Jackson. Still, I think it's a weird line. Ravens going into Cincinnati as a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet this game, but if I had to, I'd take the Bengals, only because I thought last week was a perfect spot to take the Ravens. And I think this is a perfect spot to fade them. People kind of overreact to those Sunday night, the primetime games. And listen, the Bills probably weren't as good as they showed the first couple weeks, right? And the Ravens, we knew, weren't as bad. They kind of got it going against Dallas, who can't stop the run. But again, this is now, you mentioned it, teams that know each other. They play each other all the time. The Bengals defensive coordinator has been there forever. He knows how to play Lamar Jackson. Not saying he's going to stop him, but he has schemes in there for Lamar Jackson specifically. So listen, backs to the wall, Bengals season on the line. I think they get it done.
And you say that, and the Ravens have a new defensive coordinator. Their old defensive coordinator is the head coach in Seattle now, so it may be a little different. I do like the Bengals. I didn't put it in my plays. I've been playing the Bengals a little bit too much, but I think the Bengals, and Rob says the Bengals have no defense.
No, they don't.
They don't have a defense. So maybe you like the over. I just think the Bengals are going to find a way to win this game at home. I think it's ridiculous that they're getting 2.5 points from the Ravens here. This line doesn't make sense to me, but that's a whole different story. All right. These next two games are both in my best bets, so people know what I think. I had the Texans getting a point from the Bengals. I mean, from the Bills, who I know that they come off a bad week, but the Bills have tendencies throughout the past few years, and we've seen it from Josh Allen, where they go in kind of funks in the middle of the season. It's not quite the middle of the season yet, where they'll play great for 3-4 weeks, and then they'll play bad for 2 or 3 weeks. I just don't like them going into Houston, who's been really good at home as well. So I got Houston getting a point here at home against the Bills.
Yeah, I was surprised by this number. I thought
I was
Houston would
too.
be the favorite at home. I think they're still a little bit. And again, I don't think the Bills are as bad as they showed last week. I think this will be a competitive game, but I don't know how you make Houston a slight favorite at home here. I just think that we went from not enough love to the Bills to too much love for the Bills. I lean the Texans here.
Yep. So we're on the same page. They're actually kind of like the over as well. I think this could be a really fun game to watch. I thought that number was kind of low. I thought it'd be like 49.5 or so. And so you're getting a little value there, in my opinion. Then look, I picked your Dallas Cowboys. That's one of my best bets this week. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, look, they have a brutal, ridiculous schedule. I think this will be a lower scoring game on Sunday Night Football. But look, I think the Steelers got a little bit too much love going 3-0, not necessarily playing the greatest teams on the planet because their schedule is starting to turn. Dak and the Cowboys, we know they're one-sided. They're one-dimensional. They only really know how to pass the football. But I think that's okay against a team like the Steelers.
Yeah, so I'll say a couple things. One, I think this will be the most watched regular season game in NFL history. The last time these two teams met in prime time was 1982, when we know what kind of fan bases they have. As a fan, listen, I don't root for the Cowboys like I used to, but there's three teams I always want to beat. The Giants, because I live in New York, the 49ers for obvious reasons, and then the Steelers, because the Cowboys and Steelers, when I was a kid, that was it. That was the game. And so I really want Dallas to win this game, but my concern is this. They have no depth on defense, and they have multiple big injuries there now. And I'm afraid that the Steelers are going to be able to shove the ball down their throat and play their kind of game. I'm not a believer in the Steelers team. I'm worried about the injuries on the Cowboys defense. I can see taking them as a dog because I agree the Steelers. The good thing for Dallas in this game, I think, is with all their injuries, they're facing an offense that might not be able to take quite advantage of all of them because they don't score a lot. So if the defense can just hang in there, I think they'll have a chance to win.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I just think that Dallas is better than what they've played so far. I don't necessarily think a ton better. Again, being one-dimensional and not being able to run the football is going to hurt them in the long run, but I don't think that hurts them here. By the way, they did play in prime time. It wasn't in the regular season, but Super Bowl 30.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago, though.
Yeah, I remember. Who won that game? I think it was
the Dallas Cowboys. That would be the
and
Dallas
Bill Cowher was crying after. God, that was a great day.
And hence he's on CBS now as coaching over there. Well, so we'll see how that goes. All right. Is there any, I always like to ask you before we let you go, is there any other game that we haven't talked about or on the screen that you're looking at? You talked about, what was it? Brown?
Yeah, Brown and Bryant. That number opened last night at 4.5. I grabbed it. 2 minutes later, it moved to 5.5. Now it's 6.5. The last couple of years, I've been monitoring these FCS things, and I'm starting to play them more because it's similar to my college basketball, where I hang out in those conferences nobody cares about. Some of these FCS openers are wrong. Yeah, I mean, like Chattanooga last week. Opened 4.5, closed at 7.5. They won easy. And it's just you're trying to look for spots there. And let me see if there's anything else. No, I think we talked about it because I like the over in the Air Force Navy game. I think that's a good play. And I think we're getting now to the week. You know when the NFL starts to get really hard. Yep. The NFL is always hard, but you get to that week where you're like, man, these numbers are on the mark here, and I think we're there now.
You want to know how hard this week is? All right, I know it sounds crazy, but I still have 3 picks left in Survivor out of 5. Okay, one of my 3 picks this week is winless Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. That's how hard this week is. I've got winless Jacksonville at home against the Colts, and I'm going to blame Uncle Big Nick, who has it as one of his best bets. But
I don't think Jacksonville's not. I don't. They never lose to the Colts at home. It's amazing. It's one of those things where they switch players, they switch coaches. The Colts have been better than Jacksonville going down there for whatever reason. They can't win down there. It's kind of funny.
Well, I'll promise you, I don't think I've ever taken a team in Survivor that has lost 10 straight regular season games now. I don't think I've ever done that. And
Well, the good news is if Jacksonville loses this one, you'll have the.
I won't pick them again.
On Monday you'll be able to watch a coach get fired because I think that will be the next step.
I agree with you. All right, Tom. We'll see you next week. Thanks for all your input.
All right, take care. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too. Tom Casale here on the show as he does every Thursday, and look, his insight is I love it. I mean, he goes through and tells you why, and we had some Saints talk in there, but that's what we like about this show. And again, we're not here to get anyone rich. We're here to give you what our thought process. And I tell you how I've done well betting football over the course of the past 8 to 10 years. It's not so much listening to other people, because I'm not going to say, okay, this guy is giving me his pick, I'm just going to go bet it blindly. I like to hear the thought process. If I agree with the thought process, if it's one of my picks and like someone reinforces my belief, okay, I might move that up from my fourth best bet to my best bet because I'm listening to someone else's thought process and how he comes to that, prediction. So maybe you agree with our logic and why we like the Saints this week, and maybe you don't. I saw some people laughing in the chat. Come back and laugh on Tuesday. And if we're wrong, I'm going to sit here and tell you I'm wrong. Do it all the time. Before we wrap up the show today and talk couple more minutes about the Saints, we asked you earlier if you were thinking about whether now is the time to get in touch with Evangeline Securities to become informed on whether it might be time to sell your family-run or privately held business. What the heck you waiting for? You waiting for someone to come knock on your door? No. You don't need Uncle Joe or Drunk Mabel or whoever to tell you what your business. You can't listen to them. You got to find out from the people who know what they're talking about. After their complimentary evaluation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. And they'll maximize the return process for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few, almost no companies like them in this area. You can find them on Poydras Street. They got an office in Lafayette. None of these companies anywhere around here who do what they do have their dedication and success. Just telling you. If you've been thinking about it, now's the time. Talk to them. They are fully licensed, ready to serve you. Get in touch with homegrown Nick and Ron about what's really important. COVID's going, I can do it. The rasp is back. The rest of your life. No, maybe not. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. What are our final thoughts on the Saints, on the Chiefs, on all the fun? I'll go back to the original slide. There we go. Well, it was on today's show, but we're going to go back to the slide anyway. I'm just telling you, I just think that I've had a good feeling since the end of the Falcons game. I immediately started. I don't usually do that. We do the show and I talked about Saints Falcons, but I was immediately thinking about the Chiefs. Normally I would be, Chiefs. No, looking forward to it. I like the response that I saw from the Saints. Yeah, they were down, but it was a focused kind of down. I like the response that I say. We're going to talk more about it on Monday. Again, I don't know who my guest is going to be. It's probably going to be either Garland Gill and Doug Mouton. Maybe I have not reached out to anybody, so I'm just throwing names out. It could be Mike Tillier. I don't know who it's going to be. I'm also trying to plan episode number 300. Who should we get on episode number 300? Working on that. That's coming up, 3 weeks? I think 3 weeks from yesterday. Yep, 3 weeks, Gabe says. I think it's 3 weeks from yesterday. I think we plotted it out that it's going to be on a Wednesday, which is kind of what I wanted it to be. I don't want it to be certainly don't want it to be a mono-y Monday. We don't want it to be a preview day. It kind of just worked out and bam, set up right in the middle. I think it's on a Wednesday. Again, next week, the schedule is this. We will not have a show tomorrow. In case you didn't hear me say that. We'll be back on Monday, previewing Saints Chiefs. Tuesday will be our normal Monday show. We'll have clips from Dennis Allen and some players. We'll have Mono E Tuesday. It'll be you, it'll be me, it'll be Gabe. We'll be talking about what we saw, and we'll either be super happy or You'll be pissed off, and you'll tell me what you think. I want to thank our regular Thursday guests, Gabe, Tom, and Uncle Big Nick, of course. You can read more about our insights and thoughts at bet.nola.com. And our Saints friends with the updates on the injuries, including the newest report, might be out by now, 12:15. If you're listening after the fact, it's later than that. It's definitely out. But as we go off the air, it's going to be, if it's not out now, it'll be out very shortly. Newest report will be out early this afternoon, noah.com/Saints. You can also follow Luke Johnson on Twitter, at by Luke Johnson, I believe, is his X handle. I keep saying Twitter, you know what I mean. And we hope you can join us next on Monday when we'll welcome in. Well, I don't even know who the hell our guest will be just yet, but we'll find out. Again, Mano e Monday will be Mano e Tuesday. Can't wait. That one's going to be fun. It's going to be fun because I'm telling you, I'm going to be right. And when I'm right, you'll be saying, "Oh, I can't wait to get all the Derry, you were right" comments. How did you know? How did you know? I just do. Trust me on this one. Reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell to receive notifications when we go on the air live. Normally, not on weird weeks, but normally Monday through Friday, except Tuesday, live at 11 a.m. Central Time. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, many more. You can find a replay of the show at noah.com/sports. Check out all of our shorts. The latest short was me going on about how Pete Rhodes got screwed. You know that he did. I mean, I have yet to hear one person. I've heard about 60 people, maybe more. I mean, I know a lot of people don't have a comment, and some people don't want to say if they believe that he shouldn't. I've yet to hear one person say that he shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Now, of course, there are people out there who think that. Otherwise, he'd be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to get on my soapbox again. We will see you on Monday. Everyone have a glorious weekend. Get away from the TV. Go enjoy your family. Get outside. Reacquaint yourself with the sun. Go. You remember your wife or your husband or whatever, that special person that sleeps in the same bed? Go tell them hello. Give them a kiss on the cheek. Go spend the weekend with them. Whatever you do, take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.